I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, hi, Kim. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Supervisor Moore.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Here.
Councilman Iacilli.
Here.
Councilman Pell.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
Thank you. We're going to start the work session today with a presentation from Kara Barr, our Director of Housing and Community Development, to just talk us through the home sale price calculations for income-eligible households. Good morning. Good morning, Kara. I know some of the board members are familiar with us with this, but some of us are not, so we appreciate that you're here to explain it all to us.
It's good for us all to get an update. So, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. So I was asked to speak to the board this morning about a resolution before you that sets the home sales price and rental formulas for 2024 for the town's affordable housing units. The town of Southampton uses the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, and HUD sets an area median income. They come out with that on an annual basis. We refer to that as the AMI to determine various housing programs, to determine eligibility for various housing programs, and as a basis for setting income limits for housing assistance. The area median income is the midpoint of a region's income distribution. HUD calculates an AMI for the region of Nassau and Suffolk counties combined. The AMI is determined on an annual basis by HUD, and it's based upon census data and other economic indicators. It's adjusted annually to reflect changes in income levels. HUD considers a household size and local economic conditions. So what I'd like to do with you is just go through the resolution that you have before you and kind of take a look at some of the area median income numbers that HUD has released. These became effective on June 1st.
Yeah,
So-
just before you get started on the resolution, so the first whereas clause says that we as a board can establish the formula of multipliers and maximum monthly rates. So does that mean that we look at what HUD has promulgated and use that as a guideline, or do we generally just adopt the HUD?
Yeah, generally the boards in the past have adopted HUD, and it is the standard that's used by other municipalities and by the county, by New York State. All of those, different governments use HUD's AMI numbers.
Right, our percentage calculations are predicated on the AMI, and it's the percentage calculations that the board has deference over.
That's correct.
Right.
Yep. And that percentage calculation is also a HUD standard that this board adopts. So, if we may, let's take a look. What HUD uses as a standard is 100% of the median income, which is on this chart on Appendix A in front of you. And they look at a family of 4 as the standard number. And in this case, it's 156,200. And that is 100% of the area median income for a family of 4. Last year, I think it was slightly higher. It was 156,300. So it's gone down just a little bit.
Wait, so where are you?
On the Appendix A on the chart, HUD uses as just the reference number when we refer to most programming, 100% of the median income.
4-member family,
For
so you
4.
look at that.
Yep.
And 100%, 156,
200.
200.
Yep.
So
And-
that's the average.
And
That's the average, right? That is the average income for a family of 4 in Nassau and Suffolk counties.
And can you just explain to AMI in relation to income? The higher the AMI, the higher the income, correct?
Yeah, so that's the numbers, yeah, that HUD bases that on, several different factors, census, local economic factors, things like that, and that's how they come up with that number.
Right.
Yep.
So
And
that's
our
not the
air-
income.
That is
Well-
the average income in Nassau and Suffolk County
Right.
for a family of four.
Right
Long
here.
Island.
What, right, that 100%, if you take that across the board on the chart. So for a family of two, the 100% of the area median income is $124,950. So if we compare that to New York State, in New York, the median family income, again, that's for a family of four, is $105,200. So you could see there's quite a difference between the area median income in Nassau and Suffolk County and the area median income for New York State. So that, you don't have that before you.
Oh.
That's, I'm just giving you a
What is
comparison.
it, 105 you said?
105,200 for a family of four in New York State. So what the board is asking to adopt is the area median income for Nassau, Suffolk County, which is what HUD uses for this region.
So it's higher.
It's higher, yes, and that's based upon, the economic conditions here in Nassau and Suffolk as opposed to New York State.
So when we choose our programs, we decide, the board decides if we're going to set rentals based on 100% area median income, 130, or 80%, or 60%, and that's where these numbers trigger the calculations to determine rental prices.
That's correct, yes, right. So so the impact on the AMI on Southampton town residents is it determines who's eligible for our housing program, housing assistance programs. So, for instance, the town code uses the AMI to determine who can rent an accessory dwelling unit. Town Code Section 330-11.1E requires a tenant to have an income of 130% AMI or less to be eligible to rent an ADU constructed after 2019.
Why is it 130?
That's what the town code has set forth at this point. So, for instance, if a single person is going to rent an accessory dwelling unit in the town of Southampton, their income has to be less than 142,150, which is the AMI that is set by HUD. For a
Oh, it
fam-
has to be less than.
Less than that, right. Yep. So some of the new programs introduced under the town's Community Housing Project Plan for CHF funding also use the AMI to determine who can be eligible for certain programs. For example, our down payment assistance shared equity program uses a maximum household income of 80% AMI. So in this particular case, for a family of two, to be eligible for that program, it would be $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so we have different standards for the different programs.
Yes, that's in our housing program plan that was adopted by this board in January for the CHF. The affordable easement program has a per home subsidy that increases with deeper affordability. So if somebody is building homes and the maximum income would be 130% AMI, it would be less of a subsidy than somebody who's building homes for people at 80% of the AMI. And that's in the program plan as well. So the AMI also defines affordability thresholds for housing costs. So if we take a look at the home sales price calculations for 2024, which is in the lower half of that Appendix A, the maximum sales price for an affordable home is calculated using a formula of 2.5 times an AMI for a family of four. So for low moderate, it's 2.5 times and the 80% AMI for a family of four. When you figure that calculation out, it comes out to $312,375. So that would be the maximum sales price for a low moderate income home. For a middle income home, 2.5 times the 130% AMI for a family of four, which would be 2.5 times the 203.50, comes out to $507,625 for the maximum sales price for a middle income home. Now, we use that figure for our workforce housing units. So somebody who's coming into the planning board and is building a subdivision of 5 or more housing units within the town, 10% of those housing units have to be reserved for workforce housing, and that's under the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. We would set a maximum sales price for any one of those affordable homes to be $507,625.
And currently that is what we have.
That's correct.
And our workforce housing that have been produced by subdivisions and the lottery. Like we just had a lottery for 2 units in Hampton Bays.
That's correct, yep.
Right. Okay.
So, wait a second, so under the Long Island Workforce Housing Act, 10% of the homes in the subdivision have to be,
Yes, if somebody's building a subdivision of 5 or more homes, 10% of those homes have to be reserved for affordable housing under the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. So,
And not to get ahead of ourselves, and I'm sure you're going to explain, but those stay in our buyer benefit program,
that's
which
correct.
you're going to get to.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so those stay in our buyer benefit program. When a owner of one of those workforce housing units wants to resell it, that's where we use the CPI calculator. So what we do is we take the figure that they purchased. So if they purchased $507,000 for that home today, and they want to sell it, in 5 years from now, we take that $507,000 and we put in the date of June of 2024. We put it into a CPI calculator and we come up with a figure as to what they can sell it 5 years from now. And that is done that way so that the owner of that property is entitled to a certain profit. Most people buy their first homes, it's their biggest investment, and they do it for investment purposes, and they're usually moving up to another home. And we allow them to earn a profit without making a huge windfall. So we use the CPI calculator to do that.
so then the homes can't exceed the price of $507,625.
That's
But when do you use the low to moderate income calculations for a home?
So if we had somebody that was coming in to the town who was going to be building some low moderate income housing, maybe through the CHF program, we would set the price of $312,000 for them to sell those units.
So it's dependent on what the developer wants to do.
Correct. Yeah. In most cases, when they're building workforce housing, they go up to that 130% AMI, and that's just because of the costs to build.
Mhm.
It also depends on if they're asking for relief, because I've seen the planning board say, we would want this kind of mix in there as a recommendation from planning.
That's correct, yep. Yep, so the planning board might set, depending on the relief, they might set it at a low, moderate income, maybe, 1 or 2 units.
They mix
within
it up
the
a lot,
Yeah,
If they say, so if someone says it has to include affordable housing, that's not really a thing. It's either workforce housing or low to moderate income housing.
correct, yep, exactly. So, so we also use a certain calculation for rental, the rental figures here. And we use this formula based upon low moderate income. It's up to 80% of the area median income, meaning that the tenant can earn up to 80% of the area median income. And we base the rental calculations on the size of the unit. So for a studio unit, we use 50% of the AMI for one person, which would be $54,700. We times it by 30%, and the reason why we use that 30% figure is because anybody who's paying more than 30% of their income is considered rent burdened.
Mhm.
If they're paying more than 30% on their rent, their housing costs, they're considered rent burdened. So we use that figure, we come up with a number, and then we divide it by 12. And that's how we come up with the rentals, the monthly rental figures. For a middle income, which would be someone having an income between 80% and 130% of the area median income, We use a similar calculation. We just use the 80% AMI. And we use, again, based upon the size of the unit. For a studio, it's one person. For a one bedroom, it's a two person. For a two bedroom, it's three persons. And we times that again by 30%. And then we come up with a number and we divide it by 12 to come up with a rental, a monthly rental, maximum monthly rental amount. So
For the middle income, who determines what percentages is to be used? Is that the landlord? I mean,
The-
I'm thinking that.
whether they use middle income or low moderate income, is that or
When
whether-
in the middle income category, it's 80% AMI to 130% AMI.
Right.
Who determines whether it's
So-
80, 100, or 130?
We would not allow, if we were reviewing an accessory dwelling unit, we were reviewing a lease, we want to make sure that that tenant does not exceed the 130% AMI. So we use that as a maximum.
So it's a range.
It's a range, right? So if you're going to rent your unit at a middle income rent, then that person would be between the 80% and 130% AMI. We wouldn't allow them to exceed that 130% AMI.
So landlords could find tenants that would fit into the 130% AMI and they would qualify.
Correct.
And for a 4-bedroom, that's about 5,000, more than 5,000 a month.
So for,
If I'm
for,
doing that right with them.
for a 4-bedroom, it's $38.74.
At 80% AMI.
We use that 80% multiplier.
Right.
Regardless of what that tenant's income is. So that 130% only reflects the tenant's income, not the rental calculations. We use the 80% AMI in order to calculate the rent.
Okay, thank you.
And the same goes for low moderate income. You're using the 50% to determine the rent.
That's correct,
Okay.
right. Yep, that 50% is used to calculate the rent that can be charged, but we do allow the tenant's income to go up to that 80%
Okay,
of the area median income.
got it. It's good to know.
I think the paperwork we had at the board meeting last time that I didn't bring it with me, but it was in prior years. And I was just wondering, how is this compare to what it was last year, for example? How much fluctuation is there every year?
So I have last year's here with me. So it did change, the numbers did change slightly.
Is that usual? It usually changes each year?
Yeah, and in fact, though, this is the first year that I've seen the numbers go down a little bit. And again, that's HUD that sets that. So last year, 100% of the area median income for a family of 4 was $156,300. And this year, it's $156,200. So it went down slightly. I don't have an explanation for that, honestly, but that was set by HUD. So,
Does it usually go up?
it was
Pretty close.
pretty
I mean,
close, yeah.
it's just-
But
it
that
went
was the
down.
first time I did see that.
Mhm.
The only thing I know that the board was maybe concerned about some of the rental figures. The board does have some leeway in there to include in these rental monthly rental rates the possibility of utility allowances. So HUD, through the Town of Southampton Housing Authority, sets forth maximum utility allowances for rental units. There are figures that are attributed to heat, electricity, water, and those kind of figures. And what we could do is include, if the board is concerned about these monthly rental figures being too high, we could include or require any tenant who is separately paying their own utilities to have those numbers deducted from these rents, but it requires quite a bit of calculation. So in each particular unit, we would have to determine how is the heat. Is the heat electric? Is it gas? Is it propane? And then attribute a number to that and then deduct it from what the landlord is allowed to charge for a monthly rent.
And so it would be less for the renter.
It would be less for the tenant.
And who establishes that? Would that be your department that would work on that with the landlord and the tenant?
Yeah, so what we would do is each landlord that came to before us for their rental permit, either their renewal or a new rental permit, we would ask to see the lease. We would check to see what the monthly rental rate is being charged. And then we would have to work with each individual landlord to figure out how the utilities are paid. If the tenant is paying the utilities separately, then we would figure out what kind of heat is that apartment being provided with. Is it electric heat? Is it gas heat? Is it propane heat? And then we would attribute a number to that based upon the utility allowances that HUD sets and subtract it from the monthly rate, the rental rate. Also for water and electric, and take that and then only allow the landlord to charge the rent subtracting those figures.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this.
We actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
We actually want landlords to do this. And that's kind of the balance there is to make it financially feasible for people to, offer accessory apartments.
Yes.
And whatnot.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
and that's where it becomes a balancing. So right now, we don't do this kind of calculation. We do allow a landlord if the board adopts these figures, it would allow a landlord for a one-bedroom unit to charge a maximum of $2,500. And what I hear from the landlords through my office is they need to charge that in order to be able to have that income to be able to afford to stay
Maintain
here.
it, yeah.
So yeah, it becomes a balancing act, but that is one way. If the board wants to consider a change in some of these numbers, that is one way to do it.
Oh, so these are, you can't make more than these amounts and qualify, but is there a minimum? Like, could somebody that doesn't have any income qualify?
Sure. So under our accessory dwelling unit program, we don't require proof of income if the tenant is a family member, an immediate family member. So like a son or daughter or a parent could go and live in the accessory dwelling unit, and we don't require them to prove their income to us. But keep in mind that there would be a minimum as to what somebody could afford in the rent, and that's why we use, like for middle income, between that range between 80% and 130% AMI for the to be able to qualify for a middle income rental unit, because we know if you're under that 80% AMI, you're probably most likely not going to be able to make your rental payments.
Could I just go back to that for a second? So
This is what
if
you're
you
always
have
saying, that people
somebody who qualifies for the ADU program, they build the ADU, and then they place a family member in there.
Say that.
Income doesn't matter.
Correct. Right.
Monia, don't say
We
that
allow,
about our
under
employees.
our ADU program, we allow an immediate family member to occupy the ADU without proof of income.
Does that possibly overburden our ADU program resources if too many are building ADU units, accessory dwelling units for just family members? And how do we ensure that it's going to be equitable, that it will benefit somebody with the income requirements that are looking for affordable housing opportunities?
Well, the hope is that a family member is somebody who is either working, in the township or currently living in the township. I hear this a lot.
Yeah.
That sons or daughters would have to move away to some place where
Right.
they could afford the rents and afford to
Right.
live. So
Right.
that is, that kind of the philosophy behind allowing, somebody, an immediate family member, to live in the unit without proof of income. Also for an aging parent, to allow them to live in the ADU
Right.
without proof of income.
Right.
And at the time, we thought that getting involved in a family arrangement like that would be kind of odd for the town of Southampton to, to determine what the parents would charge their son or daughter in an accessory
course.
apartment,
Of course.
or a parent, that they want to keep in the area.
Yeah, and a lot of the ADU applications that we're seeing through the Plus One program, especially for children, are disabled children who, they want to keep living close by but living independently.
Right.
And so
right.
that we're seeing some of the ADUs being built for that reason.
Okay.
But other than the ADUs, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is if somebody's making, less than, so if it's 80% and it's one person and they're making less than the 87,000, can they still, they can get the rental apartment if they're making less than 87,500. That's the max that you can make, right?
Yeah, but we would caution, a landlord that there's a chance that if you have one person who's renting an accessory dwelling unit or any kind of a dwelling
kind
unit
of
from your
apartment.
one-bedroom dwelling unit, whether or not they can afford to pay the $2,500 a month if they're making less than the
So is
$87,500.
that something we process and make the determination of whether they can, or does the landlord?
The
do that?
landlord, yeah, we wouldn't get involved in that, but we use that as a kind of a threshold. The only time that my department would get involved is if they are above the 130% AMI. We would say that that tenant does not qualify because it is not a unit that's being reserved for somebody
Who qualifies within these standards?
Yeah, it's not an affordable unit anymore because the tenant would be above that income limit.
And you're also basing this on everybody being completely open and honest, because let's face it, you have a one bedroom rented by a couple, but only one of them is on the lease.
Yeah, I mean, if one of them is on the lease and they, somebody else moves in, it's not unless code enforcement got a complaint that code enforcement will visit the property. I mean,
That's where the annual affidavit would come in.
Yeah.
At least we have a document saying,
That's true.
that they attest to certain terms in the lease and what our requirements are.
exactly, yep.
And that wasn't
Yeah.
originally an annual form, right? We were talking, we when we met with the Hampton-based community, that it was something that had come up as a concern, and we had talked about that, and you had spoken with Ryan Murphy, and correct, is that something we kind of,
Yes,
put
exactly.
together.
So Ryan Murphy, the Division of Code Enforcement, and
A couple
myself.
years ago, right?
Yeah, we are working now on an annual monitoring. Normally, we did it every 2
2
years
years.
when the rental permit expired. The rental permit itself does require it to list the names of the tenants that are occupying the unit. So if somebody moved in without, that name being listed on the rental permit, they would be in violation of that. But, code enforcement would have to go out and make that determination that that person is living there full time. But yes, so we are beginning to start to monitor all of these accessory dwelling units on an annual basis going forward.
Is very low subsidized?
Could be, we wouldn't know. Yeah.
We don't have that
So-
category in the town.
The 50% of the area median income would be, we do have the category in the town, but they could be obtaining subsidy through Section 8 or housing
Mhm.
choice, the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Yeah.
Which is, we support that, right, through the housing authority?
Yeah, the town does participate in the HUD's Housing Choice Voucher Program, and the Housing Authority administers that program for the town of Southampton.
Well, what do you think about, as our housing director, about the numbers? I mean, do you think they're, should be adjusted, or
So this
you
is,
recommend we go with the HUD calculation?
yeah, absolutely. This is the standard that's used by other municipalities, by the county, all of the, for all of their affordable housing programs and their qualifying. The Long Island Housing Partnership uses it. The CDLI uses this. This is kind of the standard. So this, yeah, I do recommend that the town board adopt this as they have done in years past. and then we can kind of move forward and use this for our programming.
It'll be on our next agenda.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you for reviewing.
And, okay, and just one last thing about the, when you said it increases upon sale, that the owner of the unit can take out just the CPI that had adjusted.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that we should look at to increase, or just for now leave that to?
Yeah, so I think it's something we should kind of leave alone at this point in time. We do have 4 units right now, resale units for sale. 3 of them are 55 and older. 2 are in the Eagles Walk 55 and older community in East Quogue. We have 1 for sale in the West Hampton Pines community in West Hampton. And we have a 4th one that's coming available for sale over here at Southampton Point. That is a non-income restricted unit. And we do allow, in those 4 cases, the people to make a profit. We do take that number that they paid for the unit and we put it into the CPI calculator and come up with a sales price. And all of those sales prices right now are on the town's website for the public to see. It is a fair way of doing it to allow the owner of the units to achieve some equity in their investment, their home investment, but it allows them to still remain affordable. So all of those figures that you see on the town website, they are affordable for first-time home buyers or for seniors to purchase.
Because as per the law, they have to remain affordable in perpetuity.
Correct.
But that's the new price then, would be the adjustment of
Correct.
the
Yep.
sale price.
So it is fair in that it allows a seller to earn some equity, but while those units do remain affordable for new buyers. So if anybody is interested in the public who is seeking a unit to purchase, they could go onto the town's website. They could see those 4 units. We have photographs, and we do have some information about how you apply to become qualified for those units.
How often do they, once they're available, stay available?
It depends, so some of the 55 and older units stay available longer.
Okay.
But, some of the units, we had a unit for sale not too long ago over on Major's Path, one of the units there. And we had close to 100 people apply for that unit. Yeah. So some of them go very quickly. The ones that are not age restricted seem to go much faster.
And they have to get their own mortgage, or is that mortgage through?
Yeah, they do. They do have to get their own mortgage, but we do, if they need down payment assistance, we will be having down payment assistance available through the Community Housing Fund for a first-time home buyer.
It's good.
Yeah.
Let people know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and hopefully we'll have that up and running very soon.
And maybe just one more time, say what units are available so people can.
Sure. So we have 2 units available in the 55 and older community of Eagles Walk in East Quogue. We have 1 unit available in the West Hampton Pines unit. That's a 55 and older community as well. And we have 1 unit that is becoming available in Southampton Point, which is not an age-restricted unit. So all of the units, all 4 of those units are condominium units. But those are the units that we have available.
We don't have any rental units, right?
We do not offer rental units. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Kara.
that really
Thank you.
helped, I appreciate
Yes.
it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kara.
So when the preserve at Quiogue goes, that's gonna be on our website.
So that, when the preserve at Quiogue becomes available, that is a private developer. My understanding is all of those units will be affordable units, all 79 of them. I imagine that we will require a lottery for that when that becomes available.
And there's no age limit on that.
There was no age limit on that.
Would that
No.
be on the website though at that point?
That-
Then we would have the rentals?
Yeah, absolutely, and we would probably work with the developer with regard to a lottery process as we get closer. But Those have not, just so the public understands, those are not in development at this time.
No. All right, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
Thanks for the info.
How are you? Good morning. How are you today?
Hi. So our next item on the agenda is changes in the town code regarding the Central Pine Barrens Overlay District. And Teresa is going to present to us, our principal planner.
There's a PowerPoint presentation, which I printed out, but will get put up on the screen. The PowerPoint presentation was given to the commission members at a public hearing in
One of those already.
Wait,
February.
Teresa, could you just wait 1 minute
Yeah,
We have
absolutely.
to get organized.
while we get organized?
I think I gave you.
We do have these.
Oh, I have an extra copy?
Well, yeah, we have them
We
already.
all have it in our packet.
Oh, great, because I forgot my copy. I need copies for you guys, but not for me. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So, are we ready?
Thank you.
So the Central Pine Barrens Commission went through this process of updating their comprehensive land use plan,
Excuse me.
maybe? Yeah, thank you. So, as you know, the comprehensive land use plan was established to preserve the Pine Barrens, their unique ecological functions, and also to protect our drinking water, as they're over the largest areas of groundwater recharge in the town of Southampton, Riverhead, and Brookhaven. These were the goals as established by the enacting legislation at the state, ECL number 57, Article 7, for the protection of those ecological services and groundwater. Next one, Jan. Oh, so the comprehensive land use plan, or CLUP, is supposed to be updated every 5 years. Obviously, with COVID and the intervening years, that was put on the back burner, and they were finally catching up. And last year, as you can see here, there's the revisions. Last year, they were able to adopt the code amendments after they went through the secret process to do that. So again, here's the process they went to do the most recent updates. They started secret, they did a generic impact statement, they held some public hearings, and then they finally adopted the amendments on April 9th. These amendments need to be incorporated into the town's code, specifically Article 24, the Central Pine Barrens Overlay District. The amendments are broken down into several categories, one which are ministerial and two non-ministerial activities. Yep, thank you. Again, they need to be incorporated into the town code so that the process is streamlined, so that when we review the applications at the planning board level or in other town agent, offices, that we're incorporating those requirements into the commission, so that when they have to go in front of the commission, everybody's at the same, on the same page. Next one. They were supposed to be adopted by April 19th of this year. Unfortunately, none of the towns did that, and the commission gave us an extension until July 19th to adopt those amendments. Okay. So there are several ways that the amendments break down. Chapter 14 of the CLUP are the ministerial, 4 of the CLUP are the ministerial amendments. These are things like, adding definitions for self-heal restoration and tall structures such as cell phone towers and things of that nature. And then you have also more clarification on what is classified as a development of regional significance. And these are just general policies that have been enacted by the commission, so that they're just codified, so that it's clear and applicants have guidance on how to proceed. Next. So they also do consolidate some similar structures, and they do clarify some of the standards. They do the non-ministerial amendments for Chapter 5 add new guidelines and standards for the protection of groundwater resources and ecological resources. And again, they've been amended to reflect policy practices. So, consistent with the other regulations, the code has been, the amendments are being revised to be consistent with the other ones. So, some of the non-ministerial amendments is to allow for, require projects to comply with open space requirements, to adjust the clearing calculations to allow for flexibility, particularly for public uses. For example, we had to get a hardship exemption for Riverside. This would give them a little more flexibility. And then, next one, Janice. And it also strengthens standards for bird protection and light pollution, and again, tall structures such as cell phone towers. Okay. Some other changes is changes to encourage intermunicipal credit exchange, prohibit the use of credits in the core, which, I mean, that should make sense. And then other items here as shown on the presentation. So just a thing that I would like to point out, in reviewing the code amendments that were required by the club, I did notice that some previous amendments had been left out. Specifically, how we calculate the development yield factor in old filed maps. This has been in the club for several years, and it just didn't make it into our town code, but we have been following the required procedures. Dave Wilcox does calculate in accordance with the club, so I'm just putting it in our code so that it's clear and is consistent with the club. And then we did also add a code requirement with respect to compliance with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Guideline on federally endangered northern long-eared bat.
Oh, good. So did our code just mirror the Pine Barrens one? So it was basically replacing the whole thing, or is ours different and you had to go through and, insert the changes specifically?
I had to go through and insert the changes. The way that the code, the comprehensive land use plan is written, it is not like code requirements. It's just like, here are the guidelines and here are the standards. It doesn't have code sections. It doesn't have, for example, like the Chapter 5 standards and guidelines for natural vegetation is 5 point whatever, right? But that's not how our code is written. So we did have originally a code that was written when the Pine Barrens was adopted, and has been amended to incorporate any changes from the comprehensive land use plan.
Central Pine Barrens, this is inclusive of core area as well as compatible growth.
Yes, correct. And the critical resources areas as well. Any other questions?
But we did schedule a public hearing for this.
Yep.
Next month, or perhaps at the meeting at the end of this month.
I think it's
So-
the June 23rd.
June
meeting, I
23rd,
believe.
so we can all just review. Thank you for providing the red line version so we'll know what the changes are. But was there anything that was of concern to you that you wanted to highlight for us?
No, I think it was just a matter of tidying up the sections that had been missed previously, and also incorporating the requirements from the federal agencies, which was not specifically laid out in the comprehensive land use plan, but we thought was important to include here.
The long-eared bat,
The
was
northern
there
long-eared bat.
anything else that
No,
salamanders?
no, that was all. That's
That
all
was in there
required
already? Okay.
There is I believe there's a provision in the comprehensive land use plan and in the Central Pine Barrens overlay district that says you have to demonstrate that you're complying with, standard federally endangered or state endangered and threatened species requirements. Wetland codes, specifically to tiger salamander, the town wetland code is in effect with respect to setback requirements from wetlands, and that does apply. It does say in the Central Pine Barrens Code that you have to comply and demonstrate compliance with that those requirements, and then also DEC has standards for development within 1,000 feet of a tiger salamander pond, which those are requirements for the state.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any
Yeah,
questions?
looking at the lighting, we're pointing to Article 29 of our code. That's our dark.
That is our dark
skies
skies requirement.
requirements. Okay. Wouldn't that be required anyway?
Yeah, it is required, but the Central Pine Barrens Commission staff
They
just
want
want to just reiterate it.
Okay. Fair enough.
So we'll review these and then we'll have the public hearing and hopefully you'll attend and talk it through there and be able to respond to any questions from the community.
Okay. And if you have any questions, you guys can always call me or email me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, we will.
Thank you for the
Yes.
slide deck.
You're welcome. Have a nice afternoon.
You
Thank you,
too.
Lisa, for your help.
You're welcome. Have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, good, this one's in color. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the legislative update portion. Let's start at this end of the table today.
Okay. So I just wanted to thank everyone for yesterday. We had a ribbon cutting at the East Quogue Marine Park. Councilman Schiavone, Councilman Iacilli was there. Also, we were joined by Town Clerk Sunday Schurmeyer, Jackie Fenlon from CPF, Kristen Doulos and John Irwin from the Parks Department, Trustee Scott Horowitz, even Quogue Mayor Bob Truehold joined us. And it was actually a really nice event. It was actually slated to be just a ribbon cutting, and what people didn't know was it was also the dedication of the pavilion at Bay Avenue for Ronnie Campsey, who's a longtime East Quogue resident. He served our country in Vietnam. What had happened was a gentleman by the name of Peter Shea had contacted Congressman Lolota's office wanting to name the post office in East Quogue after Ronnie Campsey, and Lolota's office had informed him while they would love to and he would qualify. The only qualification he didn't meet is that he was not deceased. So they contacted me and asked if there was anything the town would do, and being an East Quogue resident, and when we moved to East Quogue, Ronnie and Shanna, his wife Shanna, would walk their dog down to the Bay Avenue Marine Park every day because their restaurant, New Moon, sits at the other end of Bay Avenue. And they were one of the first people I met in East Quogue. And, they're just so welcoming to everybody. They provide free meals. Like I said yesterday, if you don't have two nickels to rub together and you're hungry, Ronnie will feed you. And it was just a great, he cried. He was really touched by the gesture. And so that was a really, really nice day. The park there looks phenomenal. And like I said yesterday, it was really the work of CPF, the town board, parks, the trustees, the highway department. Everybody worked together to get the full bulkheading replaced there. The marina looks great. The kayak launch is amazing. There's racks there that are still available. Our CAC is now using the building there for our meetings. So it's really a nice facility, and it was actually a really, really nice day. That's my positive note.
Sorry, I had to miss that.
Yeah. On the negative note, I don't know if you all heard yesterday, there was a mugging at the Riverside Maritime Trail. And the reason why I want to bring it to everyone's attention is when we went there, I had pointed out, I was actually talking to the police chief about it, how it's very secluded from the roadway. And I had asked about doing some clearing so that it opens up the roadway so our police department can monitor more what's going on in there. And I was informed that Suffolk County would more than likely not allow us to do any clearing. I mention this because I know our police force does everything they can. We can't have a police officer, walking the trail daily. This happened at 12:20 in the middle of the afternoon. And I do want to thank, though, Southampton Village Officer Moore, who is their canine officer, was actually on his way to training. He stopped, and his canine topper was actually the one that apprehended the two suspects, and they are in custody. I'm still waiting to hear from Chief if they've been arraigned or not, or if they're being held. But it's just, I feel like before we continue to put money into that park, until people feel like it's safe and they will go there, I feel like we're putting money into something that is not going to be utilized. I mean, this was, like I said, 12:30 in the afternoon. And you can make the argument that, putting more amenities there will bring more people there and drive the bad out. But until it can be controlled and patrolled, it's to me right now, I don't think I've been hearing from residents now for the past few days that before this even happened, they weren't utilizing it because they didn't feel it was safe because it was so secluded, and they felt closed in there. So it's something I think we need to look at and think about. And I do thank our police department because they do what they can. And like I said, it's just a very inaccessible to see from the road. So it's very hard for them to patrol on a regular basis. But they did a phenomenal job yesterday by apprehending the two suspects. The gentleman that was robbed was not injured, thankfully.
Oh, good.
And it's like it's the whole cycle of they take people off the street and they just keep going back out. So especially there, and it's been an ongoing issue, and I just want people to know that it's not for lack of enforcement, it's not for lack of our police department, doing what they need to do. They are, and it's just a very difficult location. And I feel like I'm very happy that we have the Riverside Sewer District coming in, and there will be revitalization. And I feel like once those businesses across the street are functioning and flourishing and there's more people, that's when I think we should be, really delving into, opening this up more. Unless, of course, the county will let us open view sheds to the roadway so that it can be patrolled better.
Yeah, well,
Just my
thank you.
thought.
I mean, we should talk about it some more because I'm of the mind that the more we do there and open it up and create more opportunities, that the safer it will be. So,
Actually
let's,
spoke to Tom about it this morning. He wants to talk about it later today.
oh, good, very good.
He comes
We have
in.
plans for a kayak launch and a fishing pier there. I think
Yeah.
those are fantastic ideas for the
Yeah.
community.
If it's
Let's
used.
Yeah.
we'll reach out
I mean,
to the
and we'll certainly
county.
talk about it,
We'll-
but this is what the community's been asking for, so I wouldn't want one episode to, get in the way of that.
So we'll reach out to the county about some additional clearing. I think that's a good idea to open it up, make it more visible. Go?
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
why not?
so
We'll go in order from left to
um,
right.
I was happy to join Councilman Tommy John Scavone and Councilwoman McNamara yesterday in East Quogue. It was actually a very touching moment. I think Ronnie, the veteran, was very, very happy and elated. And it was really actually emotional seeing him get emotional. And I really commend Councilwoman McNamara for working on that. It was a touching moment for everyone there. So I was actually on Sunday. I was a presenter of at the Teenie Awards with
Really?
Assemblyman Fred Thiel. Yeah, and I actually gave an award to Rajana Haron for her role as Beth in The Night of One Axe. Many of the students there who were awarded belong to different schools across the region, from Mount Sinai all the way to East Hampton. It was just really good seeing how the East End Arts, a great organization committed to arts performance and music education, brought a lot of these students from across different school districts together to identify their strengths and their talents. A lot of the kids had such a great time just talking about their experiences in the different plays. East End Arts actually sends out different judges to all the different plays throughout the region, and they identify the students, and they get the awards at the Teenie Awards. And by the way, Teenie means Tony and teen, so like a Tony Award, but
For the
for the
teens.
teens.
Yeah.
So it was really, really cool, and it was an honor to be a part of it and present an award. Later today, Councilwoman McNamara and I believe, are going to the American Legion in Hampton Bays. Commander John Lenahan is going to be retiring from his post as commander as we welcome George Hand. So a very nice moment for the community in Hampton Bays and the American Legion. We're going to go there. I worked with Jamie Bowden recently also to help get some funding for their renovations and upgrades to their building. They've been working on that for quite some time. They need the funds. So we will also, in a future resolution, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, we're going to be making sure that they have some funding. It's a little over $2,000, not a lot, but it's something that we can hopefully provide to them, and next year they can apply for additional funding as well. So I'm really happy about that.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Oh, and I'll just mention too, just to mention it, June 26th is our next traffic mitigation and safety task force. So I welcome everyone to attend. Councilman Pell will be on the dais sitting in for you, Maria.
Oh.
Did you not know that?
Oh, I didn't.
Okay. Well, he agreed to.
Yes.
So
If you're not going to be
I'll
there,
give you my
if you're not going to be there,
paperwork. Then yeah.
if you want to go, it's fine.
No, I can't. I gotta have a Pine Barrens Commission meeting.
So we welcome the public to come in. We actually have a very packed agenda. We're going to be hearing, the chief of police has invited a company to come in and talk about speed cameras and their feasibility. And we hope that also, we thank, I should say, Assemblyman Fred Thiel for also inviting New York State DOT. So we're going to have quite a packed agenda, and we're looking forward to the discussion. So, thank you, everybody.
Good. Let's see. Well, I had a East End Supervisors and Mayors meeting yesterday, and for a special treat, we had it at the Air National Guard base in West Hampton, and it was so nice of them to offer. You know, it was Chief Harold Rowan gave us a tour with his other crew members, and it was really interesting to find out what the 106 is all about, the rescue wing, and what they do. And we got to tour the facility and see the C-130 planes and the helicopters. And my hope is that the other elected officials will then do what they can do to get the word out to support the 106th. And and then last night I went to a Noyak civic meeting and listened while they told me all about their concerns about traffic and Trout Pond and sidewalks and a lot of things. I took a lot of notes, and so I have many issues that I can discuss with the board and the highway department and parks department. So it was nice to meet them. It was a good turnout, and they all seem to care very much for their community.
First, when you go tonight, tell George Hand, congratulations.
Will do.
I watched him grow up. He's a local person.
Good man.
Yes, he is. He'll work hard doing that. When the people from West Hampton goes to the transfer station today, they're going to be very surprised because the deputy highway Mark and his men, with the engineer and the transfer man, we did the transfer station up there. Great. So when you go up there, you're gonna. It's like old times.
I know you were getting calls. I was getting calls. A lot of us were.
That was one of the first complaints I heard
goodness
when I
it's
became,
done. Yeah.
even before I got elected. Then on next Monday and Tuesday, unfortunately, but good, we're gonna have some delays on the corner of North Sea Noyak by the Elwell Drain, because they're gonna finish up that project. They're gonna be stripping the road and be blacktopping it from the corner up to the firehouse.
We're gonna take the dip out.
Taking the dip out.
And that's in response, Bill, to a lot of the concerns that we received at North Sea CAC, and thanks to your responsiveness, we were able to.
Yeah, and they're gonna take the sign down, clean the whole place up.
Nice.
So by Thursday, Mark said that the place will look beautiful.
Great.
And that's about it.
Very good. Councilman Schivoni?
This Saturday, talking about Noyak and Trout Pond.
Oh, yeah.
you are all cordially invited to our third annual trout pond.
Has anybody ever come to clean up the kabamba with you?
Is that a
No, I
real
mean from the
question?
board,
Yeah,
from the
it's a-
board, not like the residents.
From the board. No. We get a nice crowd, but you're all invited anyway.
Yeah.
What time does it start? Because I know that there's
8:30.
like there's like 8 to 11, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
8:30?
The people get it. And, it's, we're really taking it out near the dock. It's, this is an invasive species that has taken hold in Trout Pond. It's a real problem there, so we have to treat it carefully and not spread it, but yet make it so people can use the resource. So that'll be this Saturday at 8:30. Also, and at Noyak Civic Council, they're great. They're going to be out there. They show up. Love it. Please sign up for the South Fork Commuter Coalition. Kind of suffered a setback this week with the rejection of congestion pricing. Love it, hate it. It is going to have a budgetary effect on the MTA, and so there'll be less money for them to spend. So we'll see what happens there. And also the Steinbeck House in Sag Harbor is moving along. They will be coming in here to be giving us an update on what they're doing, but they do look for docents. So if you want to learn about John Steinbeck and give tours of the house, reach out to the website, steinbeckhouse.org, I believe it is, and sign up
good.
to
They're
be a
going to come
docent.
into a work
Mhm.
session and update us. That's
Yes.
great.
Thank you for
It's
all
a good
that, Tommy
program.
John.
They do a good job with it. Good group of volunteers. And the event yesterday was nice. It's a challenge. This is in East Quogue at the end of Bay Avenue.
Mhm.
The pier out at the end is the jurisdiction of the trustees, and then there's a swath of road that's highway department, and then it picks up the bulkhead, which is Parks and Rec. So, there was a lot of moving parts there, and it looks great.
Okay, very
I have
good.
one more thing.
Two other. Oh, you got something else, Bill?
Yeah, go ahead. You
Go
can
ahead.
go first.
No, I wanted to say Jim Burke was also there yesterday. And I forgot to thank her yesterday. Paula Godfrey put that entire event yesterday together. She did an amazing job. She worked with all of our departments to get the boulder and the plaque, which isn't there yet, but it's on the way. So I really wanted to thank her because she did an amazing job. And then also yesterday, I attended a training, a first responder training with the Atlantic Marine Conservation Society that was put together by Ryan Murphy from the Southampton Town Department of Public Service and Emergency Management. We had Southampton Town Marine Patrol there, Brookhaven Town Marine Patrol, Quogue Village Police. Paula did attend that with me as well. It was very interesting, and we went through the whole process of basically, what happens from the time that, from either deciding whether a marine mammal is alive or dead and how it's handled and all the steps that get taken and the time frame and, how it's our town policy that we just shut down the beach to the public. And even if it's, 4th of July weekend, we just tell them, sorry, you can't go on the beach. We have to handle the situation. And they were saying that is the safest for everybody. It lets them do their job in a very orderly way. And, they rely on us to allow them to come do necropsies because that's the only way they find out what these whale strikes are happening about. Right now, people coming on the beach and the big question is, the windmills. But they're saying that no, it's actually the numbers of marine mammals have increased so much, which is a great thing. But so we're seeing more interactions and more boat strikes and more issues. And they are seeing some like disease in minke whales that they're studying. And so it was very informative. Lot of information yesterday, and it was great to have all of our first responders there and the core group that would deal with these situations and go through. They were able to ask questions of the people that respond as to what they should do and how they should do it, and they really, it was nice to hear also from the experts that our town team is wonderful to work with. So it was a great
That's
event.
to hear. And I did want to thank Jackie O'Neill for putting together that trip to the Air National Guard yesterday because it took a lot of coordination. Everybody had to be pre-screened and she had a lot of paperwork to submit, but it went off without a hitch. So thank you, Jackie.
Also, want to tell Peter, the head of maintenance for the building, thank you for painting the front of the steps. Marie even noticed
Yes,
it when we
it's
walked out there
Bright
yesterday.
white. Looks
Bright white.
beautiful.
Now we just have to
Gotta
paint
get to match the rest of the building.
Yes, that is gonna come soon.
Yeah.
But we do care about the building.
We do. Thank you.
Thanks again, Peter.
All right, well, if that's it then, let's see what's next. We are, I move to go into executive session to
Second.
discuss acquisitions, contracts, personnel, confidential legal advice, and litigation, and then to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.